Hello and welcome once again to Solo Board Gaming presents Heart of Darkness, an adventure game of African exploration from Legion Wargames and designed by the brilliant Kim Kanga. Been looking forward to this game for a long time, and in fact when I first heard of the game I didn't even realise how long I'd been waiting for it, but we'll explain that very soon. You're a Victorian explorer, sponsored by the Royal Geographical Society or a financier or a newspaper publisher, by a politician, or sponsored by science to explore the darkest depths of African continent in search of stories or dramas from which we can all earn our fame and fortune. Let's take a look. For now, I've just placed a matrix on top of this truly brilliant map. This is a great map, and we'll see a lot more of it a lot closer in the upcoming playthrough videos. The game begins at a time when much of the continent is unexplored or dark. So that's where the Heart of Darkness comes from. We had these great maps, much of the coastlines and port areas explored, but nothing in the interior, just great voids, the Heart of Darkness. And we need to map our journey in order to fill in those gaps. It's inspired by the 80s game. There's no getting away from that. Source of the Nile. That's the inspiration, but that's where the similarity ends. This is several steps above Source of the Nile, although Source of the Nile was a great game. I played it a lot with my crayons, mapping the rivers and the veldt and the marsh and that kind of thing. We've moved on from there, but definitely takes an inspiration from that game. And also, more importantly, the late 19th century novel or novella from Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness, which is the story of Marlowe and his trip up the Congo into Central Africa. If you think you don't know this story, you probably do, because you've most probably seen the blockbuster movie Apocalypse Now. And if you have, then you have met Kurtz, the movie story being taken directly from the Conrad novel. So this game is long overdue. At last we are free to equip our expedition, to explore, to discover, to have encounters, to create great adventure stories, and to map this great continent. We've waited too long for this, but with Heart of Darkness from Legion Wargames, we've been spoiled now. We will be doing a playthrough demo, or a couple actually of playthrough demo videos of this game, because it has a little bit of complexity within some of the rules. Some of the mapping, for instance, of rivers and how to move on the matrix. So it has some complexity, but without being complicated. It is not complicated at all to play. It just has a few levels of chrome on it to make it more realistic as regards mapping and where rivers will end up and that kind of thing. So for now, we're just going to do a very quick intro. So first of all, we choose a sponsor, one of our sponsors that I mentioned before, the Royal Geographic Society, a financier, a publisher, politicians maybe, or scientists are sponsoring us to take this journey into the Heart of Darkness. So we'll outfit our expedition with choices from a ton of resources. You can't see all of them right now, but I have a telescope, I have a machete, I have a compass. I have some more ammo, water in my canteen. I have a, what's that? That's a sextant of some kind. I have some opioid, cannabis oil, actually. I have quinine. I have quinine. I have a rifle, and so on. So I can choose at the beginning of the game from various resources that I might think I will need for my expedition. And I've got to be pretty careful about those, because there's little to no chance of picking up additional resources, bar a couple of exceptions, during my expedition through the continent. So I do need to plan this pretty well. So that's a fun element of the game. What do we have next? We will choose a port of entry. There are 5 different ports of entry. I'm not sure what we can see in this zoomed in view, but we've got Zanzibar there, Mozambique, we've got Angola over here, and then further up we've got Fernando Po. What else have we got? We've got Khartoum in the north of the map, and so on. You may have seen better of it, a better portion of the map during the introductory pan over the map. Now, luckily, we've got a beautifully simple, where did I put it? Here we are. Rule book, rules of play. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed reading through it, because look how well spaced it is. Let's take a look inside. Explains just about every single counter, how to use the matrix, how to set up the game. It's not a long rule book. I think it was about 20 pages of actual rules. Look, explaining all of the special discovery counters there, and so on. Yeah, 21. Oh, this part actually, the last couple of pages, is an extensive playthrough of a couple of game turns. Very, very useful. I mentioned that a couple of the rules regarding river mapping and movement on the matrix can be fairly complex, but this is what you need to do. You need to get out your counters, you need to set it up and move through these game turns as explained in this playthrough here at the back of the rule book. And that really finally sorts it out. It is not overly complex, certainly not a complicated game to play. And then we've got the play sequence, what's he calling it? Sequence of flow chart, where we start how a player turn and then a game turn starts, because they're different. Player turns and game turns are very, very different. We've got some great player aids. The resources I mentioned at the beginning down here that I've chosen, when you're first equipping your expedition, they're all on this player aid here. The resource chart goes through each and every one, explaining the what each and every one does, what benefits it brings to you in various situations. So that's really good. Other player aids, and there's quite a lot of these. There's the incident chart for the event chits. So you're drawing event chits from time to time. These are the incidents across the top: thirst, storm, accident, malaria, warband, lost, and any modifiers depending on the kind of terrain you're in, and any particular conditions and modifiers you have down here. That could be dependent on what resources you have. So those are your incidents. And then the encounters, yet another chart. Encounter charts. Look at all these. Plant, healer, wildlife, various types of wildlife counter, by the way. Village, tusk, missionary. Of course, you're going to get missionary, and so on. And how they interact depending on what your previous encounter was, and what resources you have that can affect those encounters, and then special discovery chart on the side there. And what else do we have? All the drama point chart, because this is all about gaining drama points, and basically that is building a story that your sponsor can sell. Because obviously when you get back, there'll be books published, there'll be newspaper articles, there'll be photographs you've taken, there will be speaking tours, and so on. So you build up your drama points, and this explains how many drama points we get depending on what kind of discovery or what kind of encounter we have throughout the game. That is, I must admit, an amazing part of the game. I've really, really enjoyed that. There are so many different encounters and discoveries to be had, as you can imagine, exploring this amazing continent. We've got a couple of other aids as well. This one just lays out what encounters and events there are. When I said there's several types of wildlife encounter, look at them, they're all across the top. There they go. Beautiful. Rhino, lion, elephant, and so on. I think we've got an anteater there, hippos, gorillas, and so on. So another great player aid there. So we start each new game turn by moving into a new area on the map. Now, at the moment, you can't really see anything on the map. I haven't mapped anything here. So most of this now is virgin territory. So we move our explorer. There he is with his rifle, our explorer counter, into a new area. And it's quite sandbox. We can move into whatever area we like in any direction, more or less, unless the way is blocked, that kind of thing. But we'll explain that in the rules demos. And then we start mapping that area. What kind of terrain will we encounter? For instance, at the moment, in virtually all of them, there's no terrain at all. But in some, and that'll be the areas adjacent to the port areas, we think we know what kind of terrain to expect. Like, for instance, here we're expecting savanna. That's printed on the map. We're expecting veldt. That's printed on the map. And we have some desert areas and some jungle areas up in the northern Congo, that kind of thing, that we expect to be jungle areas. But once we get there, trundle, trundle, we have to go through various motions to actually discover what kind of terrain we're going to encounter. And we may be able to confirm, for instance, that that is going to be savanna, or it might be something completely different. So we're going to be mapping the terrain as we go. And we're also going to be following the rivers. There's a river fork here. And all of the port areas have rivers and river forks coming out that we're going to tend to follow. We don't have to follow the rivers, but we're going to be mapping the rivers, finding the source of various rivers. So the terrain is going to be going on the map. The rivers are going to be going on the map. And we're also going to be putting marshes on the map, discoveries such as mountains, lost cities, villages, new kingdoms, and that kind of thing, largest lakes. They're all going to be going on the map. But the map can't show all of our movements, and this is where this game differs so much. So we move into an area, rather than it just being a hex. What have we found? We found a bit of terrain, we found a bit of river. No. Once all the players, 1 to 5 players, have made that move into a new area, have mapped any particular water courses and what kind of terrain, they then have a certain amount of time, each player, to move around that area and make discoveries and to map it properly. And for that, we have the matrix. And this is what I've found that some people might be having difficulty comprehending why are we using a matrix when we're meant to be mapping an area. Well, I've mentioned a ton of stuff that does go on the map, but all those complicated movements, the exploration of the area, takes place on the matrix simply because it couldn't possibly take place on the map. Each area would end up being huge. So we do it on the matrix. So once we've moved into a new terrain, we go to the exploration matrix and explore the area thoroughly. And this is the matrix along which, in any direction, backwards or forwards you like, this is the matrix upon which your explorer here moves. Here he is, look, moving around the matrix, exploring new areas. And you're placing discoveries and events on here, incidents, encounters, as we thoroughly search our new piece of land. We do one of these things at a time. There we go, I'm going here. Like so, and then other players do their matrix move. So it goes backwards and forwards. We make other findings, alternating between the players until the new area is thoroughly explored, or is it? Because all these discoveries and mapping this area takes time. All the while we're on this matrix, the clock here, the clock is ticking down, and when it reaches 0, we must stop. That's it. Time's up. We've spent enough time in that area. So once each player has, we've alternated between taking a move on the matrix to explore our area. Once each player has done that and each player has used up all his time, then it stops. And that's just one game turn, one new area explored. And now a new game turn starts and we move to the next area. We've put our discoveries and things on the map and we've moved to the next area. So you can see how this map, this continent is going to be mapped and is going to be filled in. And we start all of our turns all over again. So we move on the map, we explore using our matrix, and all the while we gain drama points along this track here that our sponsor can publish, and we're aiming to gain 50 drama points or more at the end. Wow. You're going to build up a hell of a story. You're going to build up a heck of a map and some great adventures. There's innumerable different types of counters for discoveries, for encounters, for incidents as you go along. And that's why we have to do it on the matrix. So our expedition moves along. Our porters help us out by helping us carry our goods. Are we going to lose porters? Therefore, we have to ditch some goods. Our Ascaris are helping defend us against any hostile peoples we come across. Not all will be. It depends how we interact with them, for instance, and also help us to hunt. I think after playing through this game, after looking at all the rules, all the considerations taken into account, I think, because up to 5 people can play this game, but I think the sweet spot is between 1 and 3 people. Why do I say that? Well, some people could get a little bit tired of waiting for another 4 people to do their various player turns. It does alternate all the time, but it can be so hard to make some decisions, which is fascinating. That's a fascinating part of the game. People would be discussing what they're going to do or not, and interacting in that way. So I can imagine 5 may be a bit too much. 3 would be a sweet spot for me. And solo, well, solo's absolutely perfect. And when I say solo, I mean true solitaire, where you could just use outfit 1 expedition, or you could play double-handed by outfitting 2 expeditions starting at various points, and we'll all have a favourite expedition, won't we? Or maybe even 3-handed, starting from 3 different starting positions. So whether true solitaire or whether solo but playing 3-handed, this is a perfect game because we're using draw cups, we're using draw bags, and we have these 2 great quality faux Hessian draw bags here with a ton of counters in. Well, what we got here? There we go. Draw. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of counters in here. What have we got? That's an encounter. Oh, okay. It's a finding. We found cobalt. Or have we? Okay. So that's a finding. We found cobalt and so on. But that could have been, let's have a look. What else? What are we going to draw now? Oh, now look at this. Taboo. And how do we interact with the taboo? So, there we are. For what it's worth, that's my opinion anyway. The sweet spot being 1 to 3 players. But as for the entire game, we've waited much too long for this. It's a stunning game that's going to tell a lot of stories. I mean, this is real adventure, and harks back to those days when we played, or many of us played, Source of the Nile, for instance, during the 80s. Okay, so that's it. Didn't want to spend too long on this. This is purely an introduction. We're going to get into a setup video and then a playthrough video, probably divided into 2 parts. Again, one, the mapping procedures, and the next part, the matrix procedures. Meanwhile, a fantastic game, Heart of Darkness, from Legion Wargames, designed by Kim Kanga. Well done. It's an absolute beauty. You will enjoy this. Go out and buy it, even if you're just slightly interested at this stage, because you'll love it. Thanks very much for watching. I've really enjoyed it once again. I always do. And see you very, very soon. Cheers.